Hi there.
Hey, I am just eating my breakfast.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
one second.
fine. I think it started the recording already, but it still says we're in a practice session. So I'm hoping that when I click the start webinar button, that maybe the recording starts over.
Yeah, I hope so, but I can edit that out if it does.
Oh, can you? Okay. All right. I won't worry about it so much then. Should put on my ring camera here so everyone can see my face a little bit better. Mhm.
I hope Anna can get in today.
Oh, yeah. There she is. We were hoping that you wouldn't have issues getting in.
It always makes me sign in when I'm a panelist, like even though I'm already logged into Zoom as myself. It's
That's
very,
weird.
so anyway, that's why I was delayed because I had to sign in.
Okay.
Let me close. I'm in here.
Do you keep Lily from going downstairs? Do you just like close the door so she can't come down?
No, sometimes she comes.
Oh,
I think she likes the upstairs couch better.
ah,
Okay, you're all good on the poll?
Lisa's gonna run the poll for us because it's in the middle of my section. So we practiced that yesterday. And there's two questions. Oh, I was gonna fix the slide so because the slide only has one question on it. Um, what was the other question? It was get out of here.
Which
You're
decision
saying,
feels most important right now? And then the second one is which decision feels most uncomfortable or difficult for you?
thank you.
Hmm.
Thanks for all your hard work, both of you, getting us to this point. I know this part is more a result of your effort, Lisa, and yours, Anna, will start to come once we get rolling. But
High five, Lisa.
Thank
yeah,
you.
it definitely felt smoother. I know I've already said that, but we were like trying to figure out how this stuff worked before.
Yeah.
And then I stop on slide. You do the third and fourth ones. I do the fifth and sixth ones.
Uh-huh.
Um, then the poll, then I do the code challenges, and then I do one help growing your practice. And what is the Catalyst Coaching Collective? But then you take, oh no, you do what is the coaching, the collective. Okay.
Yeah. And then we put these couple of slides 17 and 18 in there with the dates.
Hmm.
And for the who's responsible, it's the whole group.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking that after I say, what do you get? Then we put those, go to that slide with the dates and leave it up for a little bit. What are we doing with those slides?
I think that we should just flash them up and just say, here are the dates when you get the recording. And or if you want, we can send these out. Maybe we just send them out may put save it in the drive or on HubSpot or something and send the link out if people want to check the dates. I just feel like people are going to want to have access to this. So
Okay. So then maybe after slide 16, what do you get? I'll say, now I'm going to hand it over to Lisa to talk about the dates and the how to sign up or something like that. And then Lisa, you can go, here's these dates, here's these dates. If you want to sign up, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And let's put the link to sign up in the chat. Let's try and remember to do that when we get to this point. Maybe at the beginning and at the end. I don't know. But let's try and make it easy for people to click through.
Yeah, I got the link.
Okay. And you'll drop it in the chat, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. Also, wait a second. Now, Jessica has no headphones, but now Lisa does. What kind of weird, wild world do we live in?
My AirPods are dead. I grabbed them and they were dead. Great.
I'm liking this Logidoc thing I got, but then I was feeling so special and smart about it. And my ex-husband over the weekend, who's a tech guy, I was telling him, I said, have you heard of this Logidoc thing? And he goes, doesn't your webcam have a speaker and a mic? And I said, no, it doesn't do sound. He goes, well, that's why you need that thing. He goes, most people can buy a webcam that just has it all in the webcam, and that's why they don't need Logidocs.
I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
I was like, okay, thanks.
Funny.
I just have a basic webcam, I guess. It's not special.
I don't have any webcam. I just have a computer. So there you go. Not special at
Exactly.
all.
Or there's usually no one ever here when I come to the business center, but today there's like a work meeting happening. The mailman is here. I'm like, really?
How's Vince doing?
He's okay. I think he's starting to get a bit frustrated. Um, you know, I think he's applied to over 60 plus positions by now. So he's just feeling, I think it's a hard job market right now.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good job market.
Trying my best to be like supportive and help, but some of it is like going through the process.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So as I could put the slides up here. So I will feel free to nudge me about moving the slides forward if I'm not doing it fast enough for you, but I'll be slide mover.
Sounds good.
What is broadcast?
Is that in PowerPoint?
No, that's Zoom.
Oh.
Jessica, is there any specific Sparks Group example you want me to use for decision for high end, low end, or somewhere in the middle? I was going to talk about it more like generally, but I didn't have a very specific story.
Um, I mean, I think you could talk about the fact that we pursue B2B specifically for positioning, that we don't market private pay coaching. We accommodate it, as kind of a business development effort, but that we specifically pursue B2B for financial reasons.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my only little I'm trying to on the first one stay out. I don't, it could bleed over. The no brand thing can bleed over into the marketing and the help, not help. Like, so I'm trying to keep it a little bit focused.
Hmm.
Um, should we start it?
Sure.
Okay. Should I have the slides up or should I take the slides down and we'll just be social and say hi and then put the slides up?
I think be social is always nice. See people's faces. Yeah.
Stop sharing them. Okay, starting webinar. Okay, they're going to start to come in. Hi, DK. I know you can't talk to us, but hi. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Renee. Welcome on in. Hi, Pam. Welcome. Nice to see you here. Hi, Chris. Hi, Shalini. Hi, Don. Hi, Melinda. Penny. Here comes everybody. Alicia. Welcome. Shalini. Is that better? I'm trying. Where's everybody dialing in from today? Go ahead and put in the chat where you are. Maybe you're at home, maybe you're on vacation. Myrtle Beach. I was just there last weekend. DK, you're on the left coast. Sunny, warm Pittsburgh. Hi, Alan. We have Allison and Carrie. Hi, everybody. We're going to give people a couple minutes to get here and then we'll get started. Frankfurt, Germany. All right, Allison, you win for furthest afield so far. Carrie's at home in Wisconsin. Oh, hi, Lindsay. It's great to see you here. Sarah's here. Hi, Sarah. Rebecca Archer. Hi. All right, we're going to give it just another minute or two for people to come in and we'll get started. Christina. Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. Thanks for the heads up, Alan. You'll get a recording if you want to watch the rest. All right. I'm going to go ahead and throw the slides up here so we can begin to get started. Okay. One more minute, you think, or shall we go ahead and go?
We can go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are just so delighted to have you give your lunch hour or whatever time of day it is for you to this presentation and to spending a little bit of time with us. My name's Jessica Bronzert and I own the Sparks Group. We also have Lisa and Anna here who I'll introduce in just a minute. But our webinar today is around the 6 strategy decisions that shape your coaching business. This is really designed to give you a taste of what the Catalyst Coaching Collective is going to look like and be like. And so what we are going to be doing today is kind of giving you some content, talking about some of the key decisions that we have faced here at the Sparks Group, and how to be intentional about them. So hopefully we can talk about what those decisions look like in our business. And then for you, you can think about how does this apply to me? Do I want to make a decision similar to what the Sparks Group did or something different? There are no real right answers, if you will, to anything that you might pursue in your coaching business. It's all about what's going to work best for you and your style. So hopefully we illuminate some of that today. Then we are going to talk about the Catalyst Coaching Collective. So this is our offering to take our 11 years of business experience, building the Sparks Group into a really healthy, vibrant practice, and try and translate all of that learning to you so that you can do your version of it. I teach in the program at Georgetown, and one of the major comments, complaints about the wonderful training at Georgetown is that it doesn't talk about the business development side as much. It really is just focused on coaching. And that is kind of the deal, no matter where you got your coach training for the most part, is that you might be a really good coach, you might really love the work, but you have not as much support or not as much knowledge about what to do if you want to go out on your own as a coach. The Catalyst Coaching Collective is designed to fill that gap, meet that need, provide you community and support as you make that journey. So we're going to talk about what that offering looks like today, and you can decide if it's something you might be interested in. And then as a bonus, we do have a discount code. We are talking about the low bono offer here. So if you are a coach of limited means for any reason, we're going to invite you to consider whether or not you would be a candidate for a low bono spot in the program. But we also have a discount code if you are an early sign up person, and we'll talk about that as well. So with that, I want to introduce all 3 of us. So you've got the 3 people who run the Sparks Group on a day-to-day basis here with you, but we also have a bench of about 40 or so coaches and consultants that we partner with now to meet the needs of our clients. So we love the whole Sparks Group family, but the 3 of us are kind of in it on a day-to-day basis. So my name's Jessica Bronzert. I founded the company. One of the really wonderfully confusing things is that Anna's last name is Sparks and the business is Sparks, but it's my business. Anna is our very valued Chief Operating Officer who just happens to have the same last name, if you can believe it. Sparks is a family name for me, so we suspect we might be related, but we've never found time to go do our ancestry stuff and find out if we're related. So that's still a TBD after about 4 years. I'm a master certified coach. I was trained at Georgetown Go Cohort 40. I'm now pleased to also teach in the program. I just picked up helping teach module 3 around vertical development, which I'm super excited about, and have been, I guess, the key person here, kind of building the business over the 11 years that we've been in business. Anna is our chief operating officer. She's the yin to my yang, the jelly to my peanut butter, whatever you want to call it. She's a great compliment to me and kind of takes all my crazy ideas and puts them into reality or discards the ones that aren't going to work. But she is an important part of the team and is going to be talking to you as well today. And so is Lisa, who is also yin to my yang. That takes two people to kind of keep me contained. Lisa's our operations specialist, has been with us just over a year. Happy anniversary, Lisa. And she runs all of our assessments, does all of our invoicing. She really is the grease on the wheels in the background to keep the business going. So feel free to put questions in the chat. Anna and Lisa are monitoring that. They're also going to be part of the presentation here. So with that, we're going to get started on our 6 decisions that are critical to your business. I'm going to do the first couple here, and then Anna is going to weigh in. So the first decision or choice point that coaches often face is whether or not to build a brand. And the provocative sort of thing that we want to offer you here on this one is that you do not have to have a brand or a big brand in order to be successful as a coach. So I was talking to somebody this morning, in fact, who is moving into the coaching consulting space and has had a different business, but now is trying to name the new business. And this person is feeling super stuck on what the business name should be, whether or not it should speak to the work that she's doing, whether or not it should be her name, whether or not this, whether or not that. And I finally said, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what your business name is. It doesn't really matter if you have a big market presence, because when you're first starting out, your brand is really identified with you as the individual when you're a solopreneur. And so your business name, whether or not you have a website, whether or not you have a big social media presence, these things are almost secondary to who you are as a person and what your own personal brand is, and your own network and how you engage that to build your business. So a lot of people come to us and say, what about a website? What about marketing? What about the name of the business? And the sort of counterintuitive, sort of provocative thing that we want to offer you is just that it's not that necessary out of the gate to have these pieces in place, because there are other ways to accomplish getting the word out. And that really in the beginning, the quality of your work and the willingness of people to share your name and come back to you when they have another need is really what's going to carry you more in the beginning, and maybe for a long, long time. So if you are really struggling with how much effort and energy you need to put into having a brand around your business, I would release some of that. Now, if you really enjoy marketing and you enjoy branding, which some people do, and you want to, you for sure can put time and energy here. Our point is just that it is not fundamentally incredibly necessary to do that in order to be successful. So let me pause there. Anna, any comments or questions in the chat so far that merit?
No, we just have a lot of shout outs for different Georgetown cohorts. So high five.
Okay. 40 is the best, y'all. Sorry. All right. So moving on to decision number 2 is around subcontracting and how much subcontracting you want to do. So one of the things when we were thinking about offering a program and looking at what other kinds of business development programs are out there is that they all really do focus on the sales and the marketing and the brand building, and they don't really talk about where the business is going to come from as much, and especially subcontracting. And so our belief is that there is what I think of as a 3-legged stool of business development. You can appreciate my AI generated stool here where none of the legs actually appear to be touching the ground. But so I think about where the business comes from in coaching as 3 different places. One of them is the most obvious. These are direct clients that you find that you have the relationship with, and maybe you do the work. These are obviously the best, right? You own the relationship. You get to decide the pricing. You get to do the work exactly the way you want to in cooperation with the client. That's amazing. However, the disadvantage of that source of business is that it takes the longest to develop. It takes a long time to cultivate clients, to hire you, and then to retain that business to a point where you can be financially successful. So, what are your choices if you want to play that game, but you need to make a living sooner than you might be able to if you were just pursuing your own clients? Well, it's subcontracting. So, the other two legs of the stool, in my mind, are two different kinds of subcontracting. One of them I call large corporate subcontracting. This is working for firms that are big. They do have big brand names. They are well established in the market, and they carry these large benches of coaches. So think about the Center for Creative Leadership. Think about Coach Source. Think about BetterUp. There are a whole host of firms that are really well established, big players in the market, and you can go to work for them. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this approach? The advantages are it can help build your client list pretty quickly, can help you get work faster if you can get on one of these benches and they start giving work to you. But the disadvantage is that they generally do not pay very well at all. So if you need to make an income, subcontracting for large companies is not going to be able to sustain you fully. The second kind of subcontracting that we talk about is what I call buddy subcontracting or colleague subcontracting. That's where, for example, you went to Georgetown, you're in cohort, whatever you're in, and you get a project that's too big for you and you need help, and you call a buddy, or a buddy calls you and says, I've landed something that's too big for me, or I'm not exactly the right fit for this particular client. Will you help me? And those are really wonderful relationships to cultivate because usually we're kind of in the middle of the two ends of your own direct business and subcontracting for large companies. So you generally make more money when you're working with a buddy. You generally have a little bit more creative control, but it's not your relationship a lot of the time. Your friend or your buddy has the relationship. So the way we think about this as at the Sparks Group, especially when I was just starting out, was cultivating business in all three of these areas as a way of creating a sustainable practice. And if it was really hard to get my own clients, then I could do more subbing to kind of make up the difference. If the economy was slowing down and those big players weren't able to get as much business, maybe my buddies still had stuff. So that construct was really helpful in the beginning of the Sparks Group. And many people are still surprised to hear that and Anna still do a little bit of subcontracting, even though the vast majority of our business at this point is coming direct to the Sparks Group. There seems to be a story out there that I never did subcontracting or I didn't do very much of it, and nothing could be further from the truth. So the point here is that subcontracting is a legitimate business strategy. And this is one of the things that we are really going to focus on in the CCC is that there are ways to do it well. There are ways to improve your chances of getting on these benches, ways to make sure you're showing up in a way that works really well for the company that's hired you. Sort of rules of the road of subcontracting that you kind of learn trial by fire, but we're hoping to accelerate that learning for you so that if you want to pursue subcontracting as part of your business, you can do that with more confidence and intention than maybe me casting about years ago trying to figure out how this worked. So I'm going to hand it over to Anna now, who's going to talk about number 3 and number 4.
All right, so strategy decision 3 is to figure out when to get help. As solopreneurs, we often think that we have to do everything on our own: marketing, finance, sales, anything you can think of, graphic design. But that can really lead to a lot of frustration, burnout, mistakes, and honestly, it can lead to resenting your business because it's taking so much from you and you're not doing it that well, because who among us is a salesperson, a graphic designer, a marketer, and a financial professional in addition to being a coach? So what we're saying here with this decision is consider outsourcing the parts of the business that you're not very comfortable with, that you don't think you're that good at, or the things that you really don't like doing. So being a solopreneur does not mean that you have to do everything on your own. However, there is some strategy to determining when to get help and when to figure out how to do that uncomfortable or difficult thing on your own. So I want to provide a couple of examples here. First example is actually one that Jessica shares often, which I think is a great one. And that is at the beginning of the Sparks group, she describes a dining room table that is covered with many, many paper receipts from all over the place that she is trying to put in order in some way to be able to do her finances. This seems like a good time to consider getting help if you have a big pile of receipts or you have a big pile of finances and you're not so sure what to do with them.
You have an MBA and you still don't like doing the numbers.
So eventually, Jessica gave in to this idea of maybe I should pay for QuickBooks. I'm resisting, I'm resisting, I'm resisting, I'm resisting. So the way that she got help was to find a tool and pay for that tool that would make all of this easier for her, take less time on the finances. So maybe she could spend more time with clients, spend more time on sales, and not resent this piece of her business that she really was not enjoying doing. It wasn't so efficient. So that's a nice example of when you might say, yes, let me ask for help. But at the Sparks Group in the recent past, we actually have an example of when we tried to outsource something that was not the right thing to outsource. So for us, we struggled with, and I imagine a lot of you are in this place too, unless you're really great writers and very, very creative, with generating social media content. So we're mostly on LinkedIn, and it is a struggle to generate the amount of content and the interesting content that really makes you feel like you're offering something on LinkedIn. And so we shopped around for a little while. There's a whole bunch of companies that will do your social media for you. There's now AI that will write your social media for you, all kinds of things. And what we found was that when we outsourced that, that did not do the trick. And the reason it didn't do the trick is because it wasn't from us. So the Sparks Group really has built a brand of authenticity, of educating others, of really putting helpful things out into the world. And the folks that we hired to do our social media kind of could never get that voice, that unique, authentic voice of the Sparks Group. And so we paid for that for a while and we did not have good results. In fact, even a couple times people said, "What's going on with your social media? It's kind of terrible." So that was a little embarrassing for us. And we thought, this is not the right thing to outsource. And we did have to take a step back and say, okay, this is really hard to do. It takes a lot of time to generate. How are we going to figure out how to do this ourselves in a way that works for us, in a way that we like? So I'm not going to say social media is super easy for us now, but we definitely have developed a system that we use. We have hired a graphic designer who's a little bit of that outsourcing support and makes it a little bit easier. And we've had a lot more fun, I would say, generating ideas around social media, seeing how we can put them out there and seeing how people react to them, because we do get a lot of traction around that. So when to get help? When you have a big pile of receipts on your table. When not to get help? Maybe when it's not authentic to you. There's obviously a lot more factors, but those are the couple that we experienced. The next decision, number 4, is around how to price yourself. So do you want to go high end, low end, somewhere in the middle? This way that you position yourself in the marketplace, what you're offering and how much it costs, matters a lot. It's really important. So new coaches tend to really feel a little doubtful about pricing, stress about it, and often price themselves too low. I bet everybody on this call has heard at one point or another, maybe that's a little too low for what you're offering. And you probably heard from clients, oh, that's a little too much for what you're offering, right? So it's hard to figure out what's the right price. So for this decision, it's really important to conduct market research. So look around at what other folks are doing and set rates that reflect your expertise and value. So don't set rates that reflect what your hour is worth, but set rates that reflect your expertise, your value, your learning, your experience within certain industries. That is where you want to think about your pricing. And you'll be able to adjust your pricing as you grow your business and as the demand grows for you. This is also really crucial to making sure that your business is financially viable. So when you think about the actual mathematics of your business, if you're charging 100 hours per coaching session, let's say, the number of clients that you might need to make a full-time living will require a ton of sales on your part. a ton of outreach. And that might not be quite the balance that you want. For others, that might generate the amount that you need to make from your business. Something to consider. The other thing is that the way you price yourself does convey something about your brand, your expertise, and your credibility and how much you're worth. So you're also going to not want to price so much on the low end that it conveys, oh, this is kind of easy, and not so much on the high end that it's completely out of reach. So as an example here in the Sparks group, we do actually purposely price more on the higher end. And in order to do that, we had to make the decision that we were only marketing to other businesses, to corporations. So that's the level who can pay the higher end prices. So early on, we turned away from majority of private pay clients, people that are paying out of their own pocket, which of course would need typically a lower rate, and focused more on marketing to the corporate level. So do we take private pay clients sometimes? Of course, because there's a lot of folks that we love to work with, that we want to support, but the percentage of our business that comes from private pay or the lower end paying engagements is smaller, significantly smaller than what comes from the higher end corporate engagements. Decision 4, how to price yourself. So Jessica, I'm going to hand it back to you for 5 and 6.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that one thing I would add on here about the pricing that is so scary is that when you set your prices, especially on the higher end, it means that some people aren't going to be willing to pay that, or some people can't afford it. And I think that feels scary a lot because we're worried, especially in the beginning, of not having enough business. So that I think is part of the psychological difficulty of this particular decision, is that worry about losing clients. But if you're going to make enough money to live, often that's the choice you're faced with. So let's move on to decision 5 and talk about business development effort. This isn't really a decision or a choice point, because what you can see at the bottom here is that there is no silver bullet. This is something you have to work at every day, but it's really interesting. And I would tell you, honestly, this is part that I struggle with. I am primarily responsible for business development for the Sparks Group. And Anna can tell you all kinds of stories about how I get traction here, I lose traction here, I have momentum, I lose it, that it's very roller coastery for me. So but what I would tell you, and what we would tell you, is that when we are able to find more discipline and consistency in business development, we get results from that. And so that's really the big learning or big insight here, is that business development is not something that ever stops or goes away, unfortunately. And this is difficult for coaches in a couple of different ways. One of them is that we are all helping professionals, right? We want to do this work because we love people, we want to help them. And so we often have a tendency to maybe spill our candy in the lobby, if you will. We'll offer the help before we develop the business and get someone to pay us for it. Or we're just really inconsistent, or feel like if we've already talked to somebody once, we can't go back to them. So there was a coach that I had as a student at Georgetown a long time ago. And it was about a year after they had graduated from the program, and we were having a little catch-up call. And they were saying like how hard it had been to get traction in their own practice. And I said, well, tell me what you're doing to talk to people or develop business or market yourself. And they said, well, I told everybody when I started a year ago what I was doing. And I said, well, have you talked to them since then? No, not really. I said, okay, well, there's the opportunity. There's the challenge, is that you have to continue to remind people that you are there, and you have to continue to tell people what it is that you do so that they know to hire you. And that sounds so simple and so basic, but the discipline, as I've already told you, is my own struggle. The discipline of staying in that mindset that I'm constantly looking for opportunity, and I'm constantly kind of making people aware of what I or we can do for them is something that requires a lot of attention and a lot of energy. So immediately kind of said to this person, like, you need to go back and talk to them again. You need to keep reminding people. So I often think about business development and marketing as us reminding people that we exist close enough to the moment that they realize they have a need, that they are going to think of us, that they are going to think of us. So maybe you've needed a plumber, maybe you've needed a roofer, maybe you've needed some kind of service for yourself or your house or whatever it might be. And you're like, I know I've heard of a provider that can do that thing. I know that I know somebody, but you can't call them to mind at the moment you need them. The companies or people that are doing good business development are on your radar often enough that you can be like, oh yeah, I know who the really big whoever is that's marketing on TV all the time, or I just had a conversation with so and so because they reached out and reminded me or touched base. So the decision here, so I think biz dev is kind of non-negotiable. Like you have got, if you're going to make a living as a coach, you have got to do better than me of putting in some consistent effort around this or having a mindset that this is always something you're going to be responsible for. The choice point, I would argue, is more around what that looks like for you and what works for you and what is comfortable for you. Does that mean you need to be going to a million networking meetings and shaking hands and kissing babies every week? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Does it mean that if you are sitting next to somebody at a baseball game and you hear them talking about something related to coaching, that you don't lean over and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm a coach. Tell me more about that. So it can take a lot of different shapes and forms, but the point here is that you need to be doing this if you're going to be successful. And that's a really hard mindset shift, and it's a really hard thing to stick with. I'm still working on this one for sure, for sure. Anna, anything you would add to that one? You've watched me. Both of you have watched me do this for a long time.
Probably just that it also evolves over time. Like your effort that you do this year might not be the same way that you approach it next year and the next year. So this does require kind of constant creative thinking, not just investing the time in the same way repeatedly.
I think that's a really great point. We continue to really experiment with this. So, for example, in October, we are doing 2 trade shows for the very first time. So we have had kind of a good time this summer, sort of getting together our trade show kit. What are we going to give away and how are we going to engage people? And we've got a whole like banner thing coming. But we've never really done trade shows before, but we had an opportunity to do 2 of them in October. And so we're going to see how that goes. We're going to see how that goes. So. All right, the last one here, I just want to do a really quick time check. We're doing great. Do you guys love this AI image? This cracks me up. The last decision that we want to talk about today is your niche. And this is kind of interesting. I think this is a little bit of a double-edged sword, like a lot of the business side of coaching stuff is, in the sense that most of us, me included, are or were really hesitant to kind of define a niche. And I think that that's for 2 reasons. One of them is when you're starting out, you might not know what the heck it is or what you want it to be. So I think there is this, I was talking to an old friend of mine who is going out on her own in a completely different industry than what we work in. And when she came to me and said, I really need help with my niche. And I said, why? And she said, I need one. And I said, well, do you know what you want it to be? And she's like, no, I'm interested in this and this and this and this. And I said, well, you're just getting started. You need to go do this, 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 and this so that you can figure out what you want your niche to be. That said, we're also, even if we have an idea of what we think we might want it to be, there can be another mindset challenge right behind it, which is, if I say that I stand for this or I serve this audience, then do all of these other opportunities in these other areas or with these other stakeholder groups, do they go away? Do they stop coming? And will I be okay if I'm only getting business from this niche that I say that I serve? And our experience at the Sparks Group has been super interesting. So I started the business really with a focus on change management and leadership development, and wasn't so hot on the vertical piece right out of the gate, which is now really the primary focus of how we go to market. And what I learned is that even though I have a deep passion for change management, it was really hard to sell and it wasn't going to work. And so I actually backed away from change. We will still do change management work for clients if they ask for it, but we don't push it very hard in how we message to the marketplace. And that took some time to figure out that we really weren't the right firm. We weren't set up the right way. that wasn't going to work very well for us. I will say, though, that once we landed on vertical development and started to deepen in that space, what has happened is sort of the headline here at the bottom is that the more focused we have gotten and the more confident we have gotten about what we are good at, we're getting more opportunities, not just in the vertical development space, but outside of it. Because when you're good at what you do and you're confident about it, clients will start to ask you if you can also do this thing or if you can also do that thing. So as a couple of examples, we recently did a diagnostic sort of evaluation recommendation exercise for an HR organization in a company that was struggling. They had recently exited their head of HR. They were going to reorg. They wanted some experts from the outside to come in and help them with that. So we did. We have also done some communications work. We have done strategic planning. We have done a lot of things that were not strictly in the vertical development space. And I think those opportunities are coming to us because we present as credible and confident in the spaces that we do talk about. So it's a little bit of counterintuitive advice here that we really believe that the more focused you get as you are able to figure that out and do it, you actually will get more opportunities across the board if that's what you want. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Thanks for being here, Alan. I know you have to leave. Have a great rest of the day.
Jessica, so we're going to question in the chat from Chris.
Oh, let's see. What are some of the dimensions vectors of niche? Same industry. Yes, great question, Chris. So I think you can, this comes to fruition in a lot of different ways. So we have pursued content. Vertical development is sort of our differentiator, our niche. So a content, being industry agnostic, but a lot of people will say, I'm coming out of Big Five accounting or Big Four accounting, and I really want to work with accountants or finance professionals. I've seen people focusing in healthcare because they were a physician. Some people really like to coach women or like to coach men or like to coach in the LGBTQ plus space. So there are a lot of different ways that can manifest itself. And I think all of those choices are great choices, right? So it really depends on what's of interest to you and where you really want to play as to how you might define niche. So I hope that helps answer that question, Chris. Yeah, great. So I hope this is just a little bit of content today. We are absolutely skating across the top of what we could be talking about. I want to pivot now to talking, well, I actually want to ask, we're going to do a poll question is what we're going to do to kind of get you engaged here and get a little bit of feedback on which of these decisions maybe are most important and which are uncomfortable and difficult for you. So Lisa, could you launch the poll, please? Great. So there's 2 questions there. Make sure you scroll down and answer the second one too. We'll leave this open for a couple of minutes here, so let you get in. All right, I see give you maybe another 15 seconds here and then we'll call it. Oh, this is super interesting what we're seeing so far. I'm gonna look forward to putting this up. Yeah. Okay. You want to go ahead and close it, Lisa? Did everyone get a chance to get in there? Okay, let's share the results. Can everybody see that on their screen now? Maybe put a thumbs up in the chat if you can see it. All right, so which decision feels most important right now? Nobody said to build a brand or not. Okay, that's very interesting. Subcontracting, 4%. When to get help, 4%. Pricing and positioning, a little bit bigger at 20%. Biz dev effort, welcome to my club. 60% of you are saying that biz dev effort feels like the most important decision right now. Yes, I don't think that one ever goes away. And then your niche, 12% of you are saying your niche is a most important decision right now. And then which one feels most uncomfortable or difficult? Almost the same, right? So slightly less of you are saying biz to effort, Subcontracting, a few more people saying subcontracting, pricing, positioning. Okay. And some on niche. Super interesting. So thanks for that. I appreciate your feedback. This is always helpful to us to kind of know where to focus. So what I want to do now is transition into talking about the Catalyst Coaching Collective. So the struggles that we feel like we have experienced and that we have observed other coaches facing, the overwhelm and uncertainty. Where is the next client going to come from? Should I or shouldn't I spend money on something? Do I ask for help or not? Marketing and client acquisition, you all just said, was a massive opportunity that just came through in the poll. How do you actually get people to hire you? The myth of going solo. What does it actually mean to go out on your own, and how can you support yourself? And then the lack of support and guidance. So I remember when I was first starting out having a million questions and really trying to find the right people or organizations or systems to support me in getting that guidance. So what we're trying to do with the Catalyst Coaching Collective is address some of these gaps that are out there, some of these challenges that new coaches face. So hopefully this premise here of, do you want help building your practice? I would still say yes to that question even today. So I'm guessing that your answer might be yes as well. Who are we trying to serve here? What are the things that we're trying to address? You're an executive or leadership coach primarily. We're going to talk a lot about practicing in other modalities as well as a way to build a healthy practice. But if you identify as a coach and you are in the early stages of getting started or getting traction, building your practice up to a place where you can make a living from it, that is really who we are targeting. With the second bullet here, are you dreaming of autonomy and financial success? A lot of people come to coaching as a second career, which is wonderful. But if you don't need to make a living from it, you'll still get benefit from the program for sure. But we are absolutely targeting like making a living at doing this work, not kind of nice to have. I'm going to take a couple clients on the side as I around my vacation schedule. So if you're semi-retired or retired or you don't have serious income needs, you will still benefit from this program, but not necessarily exactly who we are intending this for. I came to this early enough that I need to make an income from it. I'm not anywhere near retirement. And so we are really kind of targeting people who want this to be their primary source of income. If you feel overwhelmed or intimidated by the idea of building a brand or finding your own clients, we're hoping to help with that. And that you really want to be in community, or you really want to be supported by somebody who has walked the path, which is what we have done here at the Sparks Group. That's really who the Catalyst Coaching Collective is for. So I think I'm handing it over to, I do this slide and then I give it to you, right, Anna? I do. So here's how we're targeting the CCC. It is for leadership coaches who are building or growing practices and want to work primarily with organizational clients. Okay, so we're also focused a little bit on the B2B side of things in our program. We are aiming to provide support, resources, and community to turn your coaching into a sustainable full-time income. Where does the name come from? Catalyst, you want to make a change in how you make a difference in the world. You want to start to coach or continue coaching in a more meaningful way because you want your work to be coaching. And collective, the idea that this is going to be a place of community. You might be independent, but you don't need to be alone. I love that little catchphrase there. So that's where we came up with the name Catalyst Coaching Collective. And now Anna is going to talk a little bit about the details of what's included.
Jessica, there's a question in the chat from Suzanne.
Oh, okay. Let me go open the chat. Suzanne, can you speak a bit more about someone who may not need this to be primary now, but down the road, how is the program different then? So Suzanne, if you are thinking that eventually you might need it to be primary, then I still think it would be a good fit. I think it's a good fit even if you don't need it to be primary, but we are, the idea that this is not just a hobby or a nice to have, but that it is your primary source of income is kind of our sort of premise here. So I'm happy to talk to you offline about that, but I think it would still be a fit if that's like a longer term goal for sure, and you're laying the foundation. Good. Anna, is this your slide or my slide?
Yeah, this is mine.
Okay. Off to you.
Um, so just a few ways that we think that the Catalyst Coaching Collective can help you as a coach and the way we've seen it help previous participants in the program. The first is around the ability to design your own practice. So Jessica and I have been sharing stories about how things work at the Sparks Group and what decisions we've made. But in the Catalyst Coaching Collective, you really get the opportunity to decide for yourself what direction you want to go. This is not a prescribed, you have to do A, B, and C to be successful, but it really does require you to do some thinking and deep work around how you want your practice to look and help figuring out how to get there and support figuring out how to get there. The second thing is what Jessica talked about in terms of subcontracting as a strategy. So we do see this as a key strategy for being independent as a coach. And we find this is a thing that's not talked about basically anywhere. So again, what are the key decisions you might need to make in order to have subcontracting work for you as a strategy, and where does it fit into your practice? Third one is the application to your own business. So this is actually something that we've really workshopped a bit since the first time that we delivered a Catalyst Coaching Collective. And this is making sure that during your time in the Catalyst Coaching Collective, that you have time to put substantial work into your business. So it's one thing to join a module, every couple of weeks or once a month, and then to join again. But what we've incorporated this time around is working time together, where you're in community, working with other participants, working with us to figure out some of these challenges. So really making sure that dedicated time is incorporated into the program for you. And then lastly is that community and expert guidance. So what we found is that it's very helpful for us to share the guidance that we've gained over our time in developing the Sparks Group, but it's also really helpful to hear from our other participants in the program, to share common struggles, to hear different ideas, to be creative together. So those are a couple of things that we really think stand out about the program.
And I think it's clear now, but just so that everybody hears this out loud, we ran a pilot of the CCC earlier this year and we learned a lot. And the design that you see now is a direct result of what we learned from the pilot earlier this year. So that application time that Anna's been hitting on is a big part of that. We heard, this is all great, and I don't have time or space, and I need more help to make this come to life in my business. So that's what we're working on building in this time.
Yeah, so what can you expect from the Catalyst Coaching Collective offering? Well, we are running the program from September to April, so about 7 months. It looks like a half-hour one-on-one call with either Jessica or I at the beginning to share your needs, where you are in your practice, et cetera, so we can make sure to support you throughout the whole 7-month program. There's 90-minute bi-monthly community calls. So we are focusing one on content, so kind of a module that we're learning about. And then the other session is focused on application. So quick example, maybe there's a module on how to construct proposals, and we talk all about the different pieces of proposals. And then the other focused on application would be like a working session where you bring a proposal template or current language that you're using in a proposal, and you work through it and ask for help from us and others in the program to get that right. So you're actually walking away with, okay, now I have my proposal template and it's ready to go, as an example. We also are offering monthly office hours. So these are 1 hour every month where you can just bring any questions, challenges, whatever you have. It's just like office hours when you were back in college at some point, where you show up and you can ask us whatever you want, and we can share as much as we can to help you with those specific questions. One of the things that we've added after the pilot, which I'm really excited about, is a vertical development assessment. So like Jessica mentioned, this is kind of something that differentiates us in the market. And we see how our own stages of vertical development impact our business and the decisions that we make about the business and the way that we think about our practice and the way that we think about our clients. So we see that as actually a very interesting element to be able to add for you all, is your own assessment about where you are in your stage of adult development and what that might mean for your practice and some of the decisions that you're making. We also give a lot of tools and content. Actually, I'm surprised sometimes about how much that we give, but we give a whole bunch of stuff. We give lists of where to subcontract. We give examples of our proposals. We give lists of our pricing. We do all kinds of things to kind of bring you in very transparently to how we've made decisions about our business so that you can use those as inputs on how you might make decisions for your own business. We do run all this through a platform called Easy Course. So you get all your recordings, materials, extra bonus resources, all of that over there. And then for people who are going to be able to join in the early bird phase, you will get a 10% discount. So that's what we're offering to all of you today. I'm going to hand it over to Lisa, who can share a little bit more about logistics, the dates, the cost, how you can sign up.
Hi, everyone. So we did want to make sure that we presented the dates to you today so you have a sense of what the program is going to look like. And so, as Anna said, we will have modules every week starting September 22nd. And then what will complement those modules will be a working session with the exception of the first one. So you'll see on September 22nd, we'll kick off. And then every week from then, pretty much there'll be a session and then a working session afterwards. Jessica, if you could go to the next slide. We are going to also have optional office hours. And so essentially, you'll have the module, you'll have your working session, and then you'll do office hours. And these are if you would like to come in and have questions for Anna or Jessica, or you really have something that you want to talk about regarding your business, we are happy to meet with you. And so those will be from 12 to noon, 12 to 1. And I meant to say previously that our sessions will be from 12 to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we are currently offering the Catalyst Coaching Collective for 3,200. We do have an early bird discount of 10%, which equals out to about $320 if you sign up by September 15th. All you have to do is at checkout, you're going to want to use the code early10. It does not have to be capitalized, but I did capitalize it here. And then after that closes, registration will remain open until September 18th. And so if you have questions as you're thinking about whether or not you want to join or if you're having trouble signing up, please do reach out to us at info@sparksgroup.com. And then, as Jessica mentioned at the beginning, there is a low bono offer. We are offering 2 low bono spots for 2,700, which is about a $500 discount. So what we would like for you to do is to read the questions on the right-hand side. And if you answer no to most of these questions on the right, please feel free to send us an email letting us know. You are welcome to provide context or not, but that's just to give us a sense of your interest.
And then the way that that would work is we've got a separate code for the low bono discount that if we, have a little bit of dialogue with you about your interest in this and we decide it's a good fit, we'll give you the code to sign up with a discount on the website.
Exactly. And I also did notice that there were a couple of returners from our pilot. It's great to see you. We also do have a discount code for our returners. So if you said you loved it the first time, you want to come back the second time, please feel free to let us know and we will provide you with that returner code.
Yeah, you should have it in email already. If you're a returner, I send it out. But if you missed that or you need it again, just let us know. We'd love to have you back.
Great. So we'll hand it right back to Jessica for questions.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of testimonials up here from people who participated in the pilot for you to take a look at, and we can open it up for questions. So we can actually, I'm going to open up the chat again. You're welcome to put questions in the chat and or raise your hand, and I think I can unmute you so you can talk. So what questions can we answer about the program for you? About how many people are we targeting for this cohort? So around 20 would be a great number to have. We had about 10 in the pilot, and that was wonderful. So somewhere between 10 and 20 is kind of what we're aiming at for this time. We'll see what the response looks like. Yeah. Good question, Nadine. Thanks. What else? You guys are quiet today. Okay. Well, oh, here we go. What is the discount for repeat offenders? I'll follow up with you, Tracy, to make sure you have it. Repeat offenders. Hmm. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Yeah, this is, I think, a really wonderful opportunity to kind of come behind the curtain of how we do things at the Sparks Group and see what may be helpful for you. Yeah, thanks for the comment, Chris. That's the sign of a well-crafted presentation. I am complete. For people where timing isn't ideal this time around, do you anticipate? Yeah, so assuming, we're still very much in experimental mode with this offering, we have revised it pretty substantially from what the pilot looked like based on the feedback that we got. So assuming that this model works and assuming this is successful, we are anticipating that this might be an annual offering. We are wondering about sort of the overall length of the program. So it's possible we might begin to offer it twice a year, but that decision is off in the future somewhere. So I would like to encourage others to consider, would people not here Yes, anyone who's not here, so that's a great nudge, DK. Thank you for raising it. This is a new offering for us. It's our second time around, but we are absolutely still getting traction and figuring out the best way to do this. So please, 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 if you know of anybody who might be interested, if you have other cohort members from your time in Georgetown, other coaches, we would be delighted for you to pass this on to them. And the early 10 discount absolutely applies to anybody who signs up by the 15th. Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. Nice feedback. All right, so you are welcome to reach out to any of us. You can either email us directly or you can email info@sparksgrp with any of your questions. We are going to clean up the recording and send that out to you tomorrow or even later today so that you can watch this recording again if you need to or want to. And we are really excited and hope that you decide to take this journey with us if it feels like the right fit for you. So thank you so much for being here today. We're going to give you a little bit of time back and hope you have a great rest of the week. All right. Thanks, everybody.